One of the questions I pose to the audience, which I think a lot about, is what is gaming? Tell me what a gaming product is. Tell me what a game is. The US, of course, has this unique environment of what is gaming, but I think we're starting to see this cross over digital channels where games are just games.
All right, we are back here on the Quick Hit series, a post G2E version of Quick Hits. So for the audience that might be home from G2E, in their LinkedIn feeds, they've probably seen a lot coming out over the last week from betting startups with interviews we conducted with founders of startups at the conference. But, we've been home for a week now, and we wanted to do a quick retrospective on the event with a friend of the podcast, a friend of mine. I'm joined by Quinton Singleton, who wears a few hats in the industry these days. We'll come back to that in a second here. But Quinton, thanks for joining us. First and foremost, you're in Vegas as a Vegas resident. A lot of us are just tourists that came in to G2E. How's the week been since the conference ended and all of us left town? You caught up on some sleep? How was the show for you?
No sleep yet. No rest for the weary. But this last G2E is probably the biggest, most active that I've seen since pre-COVID. To throw out a COVID word we haven't used for a long time. But yeah, no, it was probably one of the best shows I've seen in a very, very long time. Lots of activity across the sector, across the globe.
Yeah, 100%. My sentiment echoes that. I've been going to it since about 2011, I think, and it was by far the busiest one for me. I don't know if I overcommitted myself or what. I didn't get a chance to see everybody I wanted to and just ran out of time. And, that was with 14-hour days, just running around like a chicken with its head cut off. So it was wildly productive, a great show. As always with G2E, Quinton, when the dust settles, everybody goes home. There's always a couple key takeaways from the conference in terms of the conversations and the themes that emerge from it. I'd love to lob it over to you to get your take on what you saw, sort of the key themes from G2E this year.
Yeah, there's one that I'm going to keep coming back to, and I think the industry will for some time. I was on a panel with Seth Young and Davis Catlin and the next team that set up the show. And one of the questions I posed to the audience, which I think a lot about, is what is gaming? Tell me what a gaming product is. Tell me what a game is. The US, of course, has this unique environment of what is gaming, but I think we're starting to see this cross over digital channels where games are just games. And so I thought that's a really interesting point. And we saw a lot of that in terms of this new-ish category of this thing called sweepstakes. We're seeing a lot of movement around that within the US. We're seeing the Social and Promotional Gaming Association pop up to support that as an industry. We're seeing poker revival, which that's my favorite. So we're, it's pretty amazing to see it. And then you're seeing game content like poker is now social poker, sweepstakes poker, real money poker. And so when I ask like this question of like, what is gaming? It's kind of like, what are the underlying mechanics and how does that matter anymore?
Yeah, that's something I struggle with as well. And as a guy with a podcast called the Betting Startups Podcast, it's no longer just pure betting, right? To your point, right? Anything with a competitive element, I think, could fall under the umbrella now. And, the lines are definitely blurred, but also what that means is a lot more creative ideas entering the space now that don't, fit neatly into one of the historical buckets. Speaking, I guess, of creative ideas and innovative ideas, the weekend before the conference, Quinton, you ran the Zero Labs Cohort 3. Zero Labs, of course, being an industry-specific startup accelerator, incubator. I'm not quite sure how you brand it, but all that to say, you ran Cohort 3 in Las Vegas in partnership with UNLV. And look, from my perspective, again, talking to all of the startup founders that I did throughout the course of the week of G2E, one theme kept emerging for me, which was just how damn amazing this cohort was. And, this being the third iteration of Zero Labs, I feel like, there's some momentum building behind it. There's some word of mouth happening now. And obviously with some founders having gone through it and getting all the value out of it that they have, word is spreading. So I'd love to just lob that over to you and get, I guess, your reflections on Cohort 3 and just kind of the trajectory for Zero Labs in general.
Yeah, but for the listeners, look, it's been organic, right? So I'm a Vegas kid, been here for quite a long time. Family's been in the gaming industry. I'm a UNLV alum. And so organically, I, as a supporter of the university, said, like, let's help build out this startup ecosystem around what Vegas does best. And so it's been a bit of a passion project working with my good friends there and the team at Zero Labs to really build out this ecosystem. And in this cohort 3, man, we had some really, really amazing talented people focusing on the gaming industry. And what was really exciting is seeing people with skill sets not necessarily from gaming and then moving into gaming. And so, it's really just been it's been a great passion project, and we're seeing the continued growth behind more startups looking to tackle this market with expertise from outside the industry.
And I guess looking ahead with Zero Labs, Quinton, just for the audience's benefit, when might the cohort 4 be happening, and what can you share in terms of plans for the next iteration of it?
It's going to happen in January. So we're on course to run these on a trimester basis. And so we do a spring, early summer, early fall is kind of that trajectory. So, for those who are interested, there'll be like a late Jan, a May, and an October again.
I actually saw a reference yesterday on LinkedIn that positioned Zero Labs as being an all-inclusive vacation for industry startups.
Look, it's fun, right? It's like a cool opportunity to spend 3 days over a weekend in Vegas, as you're referring to Chris at Ballpoint, where we're literally like it's just I don't know how to describe it. Like, we literally just put on a 3-day show, and we try and do it in the best way Vegas does all things, and we just try and drive these ideas to further push, and then tackle these industries. And we're seeing stuff outside of gaming, right? And gaming is already a very deep topic, right? It's not just like I produced content like a casino game. It's like reg tech and platforms and affiliates and new content. And so it's a lot of fun. We have a great time.
Awesome. Well, at the start here, I mentioned you wear many hats. One of the hats you are wearing now, and probably the main hat I would probably suggest, is as president and COO of nVenue, which of course is one of the leading microbetting technology providers. And that is a space which has been garnering a lot of attention lately. Obviously, a few weeks ago, we saw the headlines about SimpleBet's acquisition by DraftKings. And just before G2E, there was an analyst report put out by JMP, which really, painted a very bullish picture for the future of the category. So we'd love to get your reflections, Quinton, just on microbetting in general and the trajectory for it looking ahead here.
Yeah, and this is in some ways related to the thesis of Zero Labs and trying to build this ecosystem. But I've been fortunate enough to, in some ways, predict the future in advance. A little bit of an inside joke there, but or in other words, to skate to where the puck is going, right? So I met actually Chris Bevy and Joey and Scott and the guys at SimpleBet probably 5-6 years ago, and we worked on SimpleBet as a project. And then, the team was nVenue. We started working on a similar ML AI platform about 4 years ago. And the thesis is that we're converging, particularly in the US, around everything live, everything instant. And then how do you do gaming that's instantaneous as well? So, this thesis from years ago is now coming together. And there's really only 2 platforms in this space that do what is necessary for this instantaneous micro betting, and that's really SimpleBet and nVenue. It literally takes machine learning and AI, and it takes a couple years of development to get these platforms in place. And then we saw this JMP report where it's finally coming together, right? Everyone's saying, I get it now. The next growth phase, particularly in the US, and then now also international is also there as well. But that's where we're going to see the next doubling of the US market is going to be predominantly driven by live and micros.
Yeah, back in May at SBC, we had Kelly from nVenue join us there for one of the quick hits conversations, and she was lamenting, I guess, in answering a question I'd put to her about, what does the future look like insofar as what microbetting can represent in terms of total GGR, total handle for a lot of the operators. She surmised that it could be upwards of, I think, 30% she mentioned in the future. And I think that just speaks to, the growth potential of this category and driving the wider TAM of the wider betting industry. What's next for nVenue, Quinton? I mean, obviously, as you said, with SimpleBet sort of taken out now by DraftKings, that sort of reduces the playing field of the number of providers out there operating at the level nVenue is. I guess, what does the next little while look like for the team at nVenue?
Yeah, so we took the product and the platform internationally first. And so you've seen probably in the news recently, our longstanding partnership with Sportradar was announced in terms of them being a distribution partner, a product partner with us. We just announced a similar relationship with OpenBet. We've got more in the pipeline that we haven't announced yet, but expect to see more, particularly in the U.S. coming down the pipe. So it's for me, it's very exciting to see the industry converging on the ability actually to even drive these kind of live markets to 20, 30 million U.S. customers. So the short version is there's more news coming that I can't necessarily get into now, but there's a lot of news coming.
We'll get you back on here to break it when it's ready to be released. For now, Quinton, I really appreciate you joining and sharing your reflections on what was, again, a very busy and successful G2E. And I will plug again the Zero Labs Cohort 4 for any startups that are watching or listening to this. Applications I'm sure will be opening soon, and certainly will be sharing that application link through our channels when it is ready. And wishing you all the best for the next little while, Quinton.
Likewise, Jesse, always a pleasure.